Hi there, and welcome to the Live Vybrant Podcast, where we explore how to live with energy, purpose, and intention. I'm your host, Joshua Haag, a holistic lifestyle, performance, and success coach with a background in professional sports and 2 decades of coaching experience. Each week, I sit down with experts across a multitude of fields, including wellness, finance, and personal growth, to uncover practical strategies that will help you thrive in every area of life. Let's dive in and help you live your most vibrant life. I'm so excited to have on Vasi Smith today. She is the founder of the Thrive community, and she's a coach for intermittent fasting and a soon-to-be hypnotherapist. Vasi, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Josh.
So,
I love what you're doing.
Thank you. So, for those of you kind of, getting on the Live Vybrant podcast, I always introduce somebody. I always tell them where I met them. So, part of Vybrant is growing our community side of things, and I'm using a platform called School. Amazing platform. I talked about it on the last podcast. And with School, you have the opportunity to join other people's schools. And I'm a newbie. I'm a baby in this. I was lucky enough to meet Vasi. I joined Thrive, her community. And she's still, in the grand scheme of things, growing it. She's got just over 200 members. Congratulations, Vasi. But realistically, it is one of the most wholehearted, kind, calm communities that I've gotten to see and learn from. And she has kind of started to mentor me a little bit and helping me grow mine. And so I had to talk to her. I had to bring her on. So that's kind of the background here. Personally, as some of the people who have listened to this know my journey right now, I am heavy into fasting and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And so personally, I'm really excited to rip Vasi apart on her journey and fasting and how that's helped her. So before I get into that, tell me your story. Tell me how this all started, your fasting journey, just everything. Give me the scoop.
Okay, so I've been into health my whole life. I mean, I'm kind of a health nut. I try to eat healthy, movement. But around COVID, I gained a bunch of weight. It was like 50, 60 pounds. I was at 220 pounds. And then for years after that, I tried different things to drop that weight. And nothing was working for me. And at this time, I was entering my 40s. So entering that perimenopause time when, women's hormones can really work against you when you're trying to lose weight. I was eating vegetables for breakfast and, trying to just eat really healthy throughout the day. We got a ranch. So I was moving around, feeding our animals, chasing yaks down the road sometimes. But none of it was helping me actually move that scale, move the number on the scale. I'd lose weight sometimes like 10 or 20 pounds. And then something stressful would happen and I would emotionally overeat, and then the weight would pile on, and it was just 220. That's where I was. And then I kind of decided, this is just my fate. I'm just gonna have this extra weight, whatever. I'm getting older. It is what it is. And then something happened that really reflected to me from the outside that I didn't want to be in this space, that I didn't want to live this way. And what happened was people started coming up to me and asking me, when is the due date? And, I hope it's a girl. I've seen you with your boys around town. I have some health conditions that have healed so much with intermittent fasting, and I'm still working on healing completely, but a combination of endometriosis and SIBO made it so I had this distended abdomen along with all the extra weight. So walking around in the world, I looked super pregnant. And so I would kind of, laugh a little bit and say, I'm pregnant with possibilities, or I'm working through health issues. But inside, it just killed me, honestly, anytime somebody said that. Because that's not the conversation I want to be having. I had bigger dreams for my life. We're working on building a regenerative agriculture education center. I'm super into health and wellness. I want to keep learning and growing. I want to support others. Those were things that I wanted to do. And I didn't want to have the conversation of, I'm not actually pregnant. And now I feel bad. So that was the catalyst for me that made me feel like I need to change something. I didn't know exactly how to heal endometriosis. I didn't know how to heal SIBO, but I knew that I could figure out a way to do something about my weight. And around this time, I actually attended a Joe Dispenza retreat. I don't know if you've heard of Joe Dispenza.
I have not.
He is a neuroscientist. And he does visualizations and meditations. And it was hours at this retreat. It was a 10-day retreat, hours of just being in stillness and visualizing what I wanted to create in my life. And I saw myself dancing happily, like joyfully, vibrantly, like feeling light. And yeah, that experience was so profound. And it was after that experience that things just started falling into place. I listened to a talk by Dr. Alan Goldhammer. He runs the True North Health Center in California, and they do longer term fasting, like 5 to 40 days. Yeah, you should not do this without medical supervision. They have doctors checking on you daily. But
for those of you on Spotify, my eyes just got super big. Yeah, you should not be doing a deep, heavy fast like that without medical supervision.
No, absolutely.
Do not do that.
No, but it is so powerful, the things that people can heal when they allow that time to go into fasting, to go into autophagy and letting the body clear itself of diseased tissues, diseased cells. So inspiring, various cancers, thyroid conditions. People say that injuries that they've had for years have healed after, 20 days of fasting under medical supervision. So I was listening to him and he said something that stuck with me, which was, no matter how crappy you eat, 16-8 is a really good fasting style for everybody. He recommended that for everybody, which means 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of eating. And I thought, well, that's something I could try. Compared to him, my eating is definitely crappy. He eats, mostly vegetables, no oil, no salt, no sugar, as well as I eat. It's crappy compared to how he eats. So that was the first style of fasting that I tried. And immediately it was helpful for me because I stopped eating at 5 or 6 p.m. And then that nighttime eating that I had struggled with just went away, having that boundary. It felt so easy. I was like, why didn't I think of that before? Just stop eating.
What was your, just so we know for 16-8, what was your timetable? So when was your start stop?
So oftentimes I would stop at around 6 and then eat at around 10 in the morning.
Okay, so like a late breakfast at 10 and an early dinner. And then you're using the evening time as your actual quote unquote fast window.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that made it feel easy. And yeah, somehow just having that boundary made all the difference.
I love that. Okay. And so have you ever played with other timetables or have you always been a 16-8 girl?
I've played a lot with a lot of different timetables. So when I realized that I was having such a profound benefit from this type of time restricted eating, people would call it, I went into deep research mode. I'm somebody who loves learning. So I went to the library and just started getting all the books I could find on fasting. And this is the first one I actually read. It's Intermittent Fasting for Women by Megan Ramos. She is a researcher who works with Dr. Jason Fung, if you've heard of him. And she talked about just the massive healing effects that fasting has on the body, especially for women, but for everybody. She talked about healing herself from PCOS. She talked about how helpful fasting is for anybody who has diabetes 2 or insulin resistance. And I did have insulin resistance, so that it wasn't clear to me because it's not something that can be diagnosed. But it's become very clear that that was part of my issue and why it was hard for me to actually lose weight no matter what I did. And my family has a lot of people with diabetes in it. My dad had it. He's passed away now. My aunt had it. My grandfather had it. So diabetes is very prevalent in my family. Learning that fasting can help me with this was, huge, like, woo, light going on my brain, got to do this, got to explore this more. So yeah, this was a really great book to start with. And it also gives ideas for different timetables you could try. So using this book, I started experimenting with the longer fasts, like 36 to 48 hours. And I started doing once a week, 36 to 48 hour fast. And then it actually twice a week is where that was the sweet spot for me. And then in between, making sure that I'm eating really well in between, rebuilding. She talks about the importance of the quality of foods you eat in between is so crucial. Because you have limited windows in which you're eating, you want to make sure that you're rebuilding the body with healthy foods, healthy fats, proteins, lots of vegetables and fiber. If you eat those, fruits, if you eat those. So that was really powerful. And another powerful tip she had in here was to be really clear about what your health goal is when you go into fasting. Like, what are the things you really want to experience to heal in your body? Because it really can help with a lot of different conditions, and having that can help with the motivation, because fasting can be challenging sometimes, to be honest. You're not eating, you want to eat sometimes. But
I want to freeze for the uninitiated in the fasting world listening to this. Basically, everything past about a 12-hour window, maybe 14 hours. There are different timetables in terms of like 14 to 20 hours, 20 to 24 hours, 24 to 36 hours, 36 to 48 hours. At these different windows, that different mechanisms are going off and changing within the body. So she hit on something really, really important. The fasting that you're going to choose to do is directly related to the outcome that you want. You don't just fast just to hang out. You fast for a desired outcome. If you want fat loss, there's optimum times to fast. If you want autophagy, which is, and that's the massive thing to dissect here with you, but autophagy is basically your cells are eating themselves, so to speak, and you're rejuvenating. It's a huge healing factor within the body. Autophagy happens at different timetables within the body. And so just jumping into a fast saying, well, I'm going to do, a 48-hour fast, but you're really only looking for a small, let's say, caloric deficit window and a little bit of a ghrelin reset. Well, 48 hours is going to be way too much for you to jump into. But if you're looking for deep autophagy, 36 to 48 hours, that's where the sweet spot is. Why are you fasting? And then dive off the diving board into the research. And I think a big question to you, because we're going to get into a little bit of like, how would you coach it here in a second? What's your maximum window that you would suggest someone who's uninitiated don't go past before we start to talk about medical supervision? Because that's like, I can't stress this enough. We said it before. I want to say it again. You cannot dive into heavy, deep fasting without medical supervision. You can hurt yourself. So what's your back end window? What do you coach?
That's a really good question. Before I address that, I just want to say if you're not used to fasting, it's really important to go slowly with your body to kind of build up
What does that mean?
your ability to fast.
What does
So
go
fasting
slow?
is like it's like a muscle. I see it like a muscle. And I know it's possible there might be stories out there of somebody who just jumped into a 5-day fast and they did fine. And, yes, there's stories out there. But for most people, it's going to be easier if you start with a smaller window. Like for me, I started with the 16-8 and it gave my body time to adjust to actually starting to use fat for energy instead of just carbohydrates for energy. Because when we're eating all the time, the body needs those carbohydrates for energy, and we are not metabolically flexible. That's the term when you can actually use both carbohydrates and fat. So giving yourself some time to do, maybe it's if you're at 12 hours between dinner and breakfast, maybe moving that up to like 14, and then you go up to 16 before you ever try any of these longer, like 24 or 36-hour fasts. So yeah, that's what I mean by going slow.
I also, go ahead. Go. I have so many questions.
Yeah, and in terms of the maximum, at this point, honestly, 48 hours is the maximum that I feel comfortable sharing with people because yeah, you can get into different risk factors if you go up from there, especially if people have medical conditions. So I think beyond 48 hours, it's good to consult with a medical person that you trust. I have personally gone to like 72 hours, but I felt very comfortable and very, I've read a lot. So I felt very comfortable doing that. But for most people who are starting out, 36 to 48 hours can be a good kind of thing to strive for. And then any more than that, it's good to consult with.
And
maybe it's a naturopath or a doctor or somebody you trust.
Yep. And I think both the self-research, there are some amazing videos, very easy to find on YouTube with some very talented teachers, nutritionists, dietitians, doctors that will walk you through it. And that's, I think, what it sounds, other than the books, it sounds like where you learned, Vasi, and myself included. And for those listening, I fast every week. I have ironically found it within the last month and a half after I got blood work back. I decided to try it and see what's going on. I have not felt better in a very long time. It's fascinating. And I wanted to hit on something else she said of what feels right, what feels natural. I forget the verbiage that you had said, but she tried up to 48 hours, fell into 36. Where's your sweet spot? Where's your happy?
You're
Where's your sweet spot? Where's your sweet spot number? I know you started 16-8, but now as a seasoned faster, you've lost all your weight. Where do you like to sit? What's your rhythm and tempo? Like, what's your sweet spot? Because there's a purpose to this question.
Yeah, I honestly, I really love the 42 to 48 hour fasts with, just really good heavy duty rebuilding in between, because it's possible to overdo it, especially with these longer fasts. But with over 42 hours, I just feel the mental clarity. I get, brain clarity, ideas for for my life, for my business. I get so much inspiration. It's interesting. It can take time to get into that, you know. Don't expect that to happen the first time you try fasting. Can take a while for your body to adjust. But once it does, it really opens up. It's so good for your brain. It helps your brain to detoxify and to connect with using fat as a source of energy more, which can help your thinking to become more clear, can help you to eliminate brain fog over time as you keep doing it. So I just love, yeah, the feeling of going into that. And I love that you brought up the different benefits of different lengths of fasts, because that's actually the next person I started researching was Dr. Mindy Peltz. She also helps women especially. So this is her journal, Fast Like a Girl journal. And I think her tips, though, can work for men and women. She's just really knowledgeable about how fasting can affect women's hormones. So that was really helpful for me to learn. And she talks about how a 24-hour fast, which is from basically like if you stop eating at like 6 p.m. one day, like have your dinner, you stop at 6, and then your next meal is at 6 p.m. the next day. So you start eating at the time you stopped. That's 24-hour fast. That helps your gut to completely reset. You literally rebuild your mucosal lining of your gut during that time. So it's incredibly healing for digestive issues. So she talks about how people with conditions like SIBO or irritable gut, irritable bowel syndrome have seen massive effects from twice a week 24-hour fasts, and equal to their medications. Like the effects of fasting can be very powerful for gut issues. Yeah.
Would you take medications while fasting?
It's really important to work with your doctor on those questions.
Spoken like a true coach. I don't want to answer it. That was, yes, great. And she's 100% right. I personally don't take any of my supplementation. My sweet spot, and there's a story behind it, is 36 hours. I tried to do 48. 72 is my line for I don't recommend anything past it. I actually have crept that up in terms of I don't talk past the 48 like Vasi does to any of my clients. That being said, I don't touch supplementation. A lot of supplements, especially with veggie capsules and things like that, will break the fast because there is a caloric load, especially if the supplement is suspended in liquid. It's a fatty liquid and it will actually break your fast. So just a side note, I recommend don't do any supplementation. Medication prescribed by a doctor, you must get permission before you start diving into this. However, the 14-10s, 16-10s, even 24-hour fasts, you're able to time it that you're getting an adequate amount of food on both sides of the day. So let's say we're following Vasi's 24-hour, 6 p.m. on Monday night to 6 p.m. on Tuesday. You're able to get your medication in the AM and on Monday and in the PM on Tuesday. So you're technically not breaking the medication timing. Speaking of breaking, I think this is massively, massively important. How do you break your fast?
I really like breaking it with some kind of fat because that allows me to kind of extend that fasting window. And like a boiled egg or some avocado or some kind of broth, just really nutrient dense. Probiotics are a very good thing because of what we just talked about, how you can actually reset your gut lining during that time. So replenishing with really good gut bacteria is powerful. So I will take a probiotic and then eat like sauerkraut or some really high quality yogurt. I like coconut yogurt personally, things like that. Protein, really good protein, because fasting will take glycogen out of your muscles. Glycogen is the stored sugar that lives in your muscles. So you want to replenish that and support your muscles so that you're not losing muscle while you're doing intermittent fasting. And that's actually a mistake I made in the beginning. I was eating pretty low protein when I started intermittent fasting, and I did lose some muscle. So now I'm really working hard to get protein as soon as I can after my fast, doing strength training during my eating times. That's another thing I would recommend to people is don't do any heavy duty like strength training. I mean, there's exceptions to anything I say. There's exceptions. But
I'm gonna jump in here. In the first 16 to 20 hours, all recommend, it will help you drop into a fasted state faster because like she just talked about with glycogen, that is the energy source that your muscle is running on. I recommend a high zone 4 high intensity training. It's not heavy lifting, but it's in a zone 4 state within the first like 16 to 20 hours. So that first morning. Past that, she's 100% right. Do not overtax your system. Remember, fasting is a taxation. You are challenged and are working other things, more of a healing protocol. So low zone 2 cardio, easy steady state stuff, because your body will be in a depleted state and will have trouble healing. So in turn, when it's now let's say you go lift really hard at second day or in 36 hours, you lift really hard. Well, now where's your body grabbing resources to heal the muscle that was just damaged? And the easiest thing for it to grab is pre-existing muscle. It breaks down the current resources it has, and it is not fat. So sorry, I wanted to jump in there, and it's a huge conversation for a lot of people when they're getting into fasting, is they have no idea what exertion should look like. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but it's been something
No,
I've
it's
been
great.
talking about.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, I was talking about the longer fasts when you're doing the longer
Yeah.
36 to 48-hour fasts. But yes, in the shorter fast, it can actually help you. And when you're doing just 16 to 20 hours, if you do, your heavy duty exercise and then just have your meal right after, have good protein, and that helps you to rebuild that muscle. I know Dr. David Chalkers talks about that. He's an amazing resource as well for intermittent fasting, especially for men. He's a chiropractor, I believe, but he talks about doing his exercise in the fasted window, and then he'll have a really, quality meal with good protein right afterwards. So yes, thank you for that clarification. So one more thing that's really important when I think about breaking a fast is not to have processed foods, high sugar foods. Like I'm not going to have high sugar, like pineapple, mango, banana. I'm not going to have that right after my fast. And that's partially personal because I have food addiction issues. That's something I've struggled with in my past. I consider myself in recovery. But if I have something really sweet to break my fast, it just gets my cravings going. It makes me want to eat more. It's not supportive to me with my health and wellness goals. I will have fruit later on in the day, but first thing after a fast, I like to keep it really low blood sugar type foods, low glycemic index. Vegetables that can be raw or cooked. I like raw vegetables. Some people's digestion gets bothered by raw vegetables, so you can cook them to good quality proteins, good quality fat, but keep the sugar really down. Like berries might be okay, green apple might be okay, but that can help to kind of keep that fasting, the healing benefits of fasting going longer.
I think she hit on it a little bit earlier that at about 20 to 24 hours is where we start to get a really big benefit to our gut microbiome and kind of allowing us to reestablish the healthy tissue within that gut. The most important thing after you go through all this strain of trying to fight your hunger, and you're getting through it, and eventually you're going to learn to love it, truthfully. But 24, 36 hours, you're starting to now think about coming out of fast. That moment of breaking the fast is the most crucial moment. And everyone's got a little bit of a different kind of method for what works for them. And I think that's a huge takeaway, is all of this needs to be what's best for you. However, what I will say is something to promote a good biome. So bone broth, collagen protein, a good source of fat, maybe some Greek yogurt. And now there's, we got to watch sugar content, but something with good probiotics. And what you should think about is a small little bit. Now imagine this conveyor belt that is your digestive tract has now been completely wiped clear. Do you want to eat 1,000-calorie breakfast and overload that conveyor belt again, which is basically slow and dormant and quiet? No. We want to give it just a little bit of love, let it start to turn back on and process, give it something that's like high probiotic, really great source of energy and nutrients, and then about an hour, 2 hours later, start your eating process again. It will set you up for success long term, and she hit the nail on the head. A great analogy or a great thing to think about is the fact that you are like a sponge, right? In that moment, your body is going looking for nutrients. So what nutrients do you want to give it? Good or bad? High sugar, low glycemic? Like, what is it?
I love that you brought that up. That's such an important thing to remember, is to go slow when you're coming out of fasting. And you will notice that your appetite is less. You literally create peptides in your body. You create those, I forgot the scientific name for them, but Ozempic, all the neuropeptides that they contain, your body will create those when you're fasting. So it literally will decrease your appetite. And going slow is very important. Something that helps me, because sometimes I feel so hungry. I'm like, I want all the food. So I need to have like a smaller plate. I will do a small plate and just put a few things on there and to remind myself to eat less.
And slow.
And slow, yes. And another thing is thinking about it during my fasting time, what I want to, eat when I come out of fasting is really helpful. Because if I'm coming out of fasting and I'm like, I'm ready to eat and I don't have a clear plan, that's when I can, make choices that maybe derail my health more. So being really clear with myself during the fasting, what I want to eat when I come out, what would be the most nourishing thing, the most healthy thing for myself. That's been really helpful, even writing it down sometimes to just have that clarity.
She is being proactive, not reactive to her nutritional needs. And it's very easy to get into that hunger. And there's going to be a hunger phase between like 16 and 20 hours. You are going to get hungry. And it's very easy to start to be like, oh my God, I'm going to rip a burger. Oh my God, I can't wait. I can't wait. Well, you need to be ready for the time to come out, whatever your fast window is, for that time to come out, to be able to hit the ground running with the appropriate foods to really set yourself up for success. I wanted to dive into with you, there's two main things, both timing of all these different fasts, as well as you talk about the rebuild phase. First things first, for a new person listening to this, we've talked about so many. You have a 16-8, 14-10, 16-8 window. Then you can get up to 24-hour fast windows. Then 36 to 48. From my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the 16-8 window, you can do anywhere from 5 to 7 days. You can do it consistently. You can do it almost every day. Do you take rests? For that one first, do you take rests on a 16-8 window? What's your coaching?
So I think it's important to vary it. That's something I learned from Dr. Peltz, is not getting the body completely used to exactly the same thing every day. Because what the body does is it will regulate. So if there are less calories coming in, or certain times that we're eating, the body will just say, okay, I'll adjust my metabolism. And sometimes that's decreasing the metabolism to kind of navigate this kind of eating you're doing. Now I know what you're doing. So I think it's important to have a day when you take a break, maybe do less fasting. I think it's actually also important to do a day when you do a longer amount of fasting. Like if you're doing 16-8, what I suggest is have at least one day during the week when you do like 18-hour, 20-hour, to just extend it a little bit. And then have one day when you're eating more consistently throughout the day, like eating for 12 hours or eating for 10 hours. So have a shorter fasted window.
And do you do that every day of the week? Do you do that every day of the week? On the 16-8 plan in my head, are you doing that every day of the week?
Yeah, so you're doing 16-8 on all the days except one day you have a longer fast. You give your body a longer time, and one day you give your body a shorter time, if that makes sense. Yes. But all the other days you're doing 16-8, but that introduces some variability so that you're not keeping your body flexible.
And now what happens when I want to do a 24-hour day fast? Do you do it every day?
24-hour fast, I would do that 2 or 3 times a week, maybe.
Okay.
But to me, it's really important to have at least one day that I call a fasting day. And sometimes if I'm feeling really good with, or feasting day, sorry, I think I said fasting day.
Okay, so just to be clear, it's on the 24 hour and up. You need to make sure you have a feasting day. Yes.
Yes.
And what is that?
Feasting day means eating more, eating quality foods. It doesn't mean like eat a bunch of pizza and donuts all day. But if you want to have a treat every once in a while, when you're generally eating healthy, your body can actually handle it. But a rebuilding day, a feasting day, where you're eating high quality foods and eating more of them throughout the day. If I'm usually doing 2 meals a day or 1 meal a day sometimes, then my feasting day will be 3 meals a day. And maybe I even have a snack. I don't want to overdo it because that's not good for insulin. The hormone insulin starts to... you create more insulin if you're eating more often. So you don't want to go crazy with it, but just do more eating than what you normally do to rebuild the calories, to give your body a break from fasting. Yeah, to allow for that variety.
Perfect.
You can feel really good with fasting and want to keep it going, but it's important to make sure that you're getting enough calories, that you're rebuilding properly. So that's what that does.
Right. And now if we're going to go like, let's say 36, 48, somewhere in there, how often should my rhythm be there?
I would say once or twice a week, depending on what your goals are again. But something I want to say about the 36-hour fast is that it is super powerful if you want to release weight. 36 hours is kind of the magic time when that fat switch comes in, when your body really starts to look for fat in those, stored reserves, maybe even reserves you've had for years. Your body will start to find those and use them for energy because it doesn't have the carbohydrates coming in. It doesn't have food coming in. So 36 hours is like a magic number. Anything beyond that, 36, 42, 48, that's the kind of fasting that helped me to release over 70 pounds in a short period of time, in a few months.
And now she hit the nail on the head, and we hit on specific things, specific windows for results. 24 is that gut biome. 36 is going to be your fat loss. And then starting to get into 48 and up is huge autophagy, that healing protocol. We differ. Coach Vasi and I differ a little bit. I do not coach a 36 and up hour fast more than once a week. Most people personally, and this is just personal, most people do not appropriately take in the nutrients in a feeding phase to be able to support that much of a fast, because you have to think about it as the amount of hours that you're not eating. Well, your body still in the course of a 7-day time period needs proper calories. It still needs to get food. It's just you're condensing the windows. So now the more you're fasting, the more you're in that non-eating state, the more hyper-focused you have to be on getting appropriate food and appropriate nutrients on the food state. So for something like a 16-8 where you're eating a lot, you have more opportunity for mistakes. You have more opportunity for slipping on some things or not being as focused. When we get into the more serious fasting, 36 and 48 is considered more serious, right? We need to then be more of a professional, or more of a coach mindset in terms of, okay, I'm really eating with emphasis and purpose on my times that I'm not in that window. And then for Coach Vasi, when she's doing it multiple times a week, let's say you're doing 2 36 to 48 hour fasts a week, you're only getting really 3 days of eating total. You have to be hyper focused on not getting into a malnourished state because major bad things happen as well. So personally, and I'm gonna supersede Coach Vasi since it's the Live Vibrant podcast. I do not want any of our new fasters doing more than 36 hours once a week. Should you start to step more into that in-depth, wanting to do it, you're feeling really good, I would recommend reaching out to Coach Vasi in those moments for maybe some coaching, join the Thrive community. So there's more supervision from an expert, from a professional. And that's just kind of my PSA.
I really appreciate you saying that because yes, for most people, you don't need to do more than 36 to 48 hours once a week. A lot of people, I even say once a month, just try it. Those longer fasts twice a week, I actually learned that from Megan Ramos, the Intermittent Fasting for Women author. Here's that book again. So that is super powerful if you have insulin resistance or if you are at risk for type 2 diabetes. And it's a really good thing to include your to talk to your doctor about as well. And because that was a factor for me and my family, because insulin resistance is something I was dealing with, and because I had more weight to lose, I found that to be really supportive. But most people do not need it. You should do kind of the minimal amount that's necessary.
Correct.
I'd say. But then find what feels good. Find your sweet spot, like Coach Josh was saying.
And that's where I want to end this. And personally on my journey, I've tried multiple up to 72 hours. And in the past, is it once a week? Is it every other week? Something interesting happened the other week where it's I was trying to do it consistently on Mondays. It's a big work day for me. I feel great when I'm in my fast window. I'm focused, energy. I'm happy. I'm calm. Well, it was one of those things where I felt like for the first time I was up against this massive wall. And I never am that person. And I kind of took a step back and I was like, I just don't think this is right today. There was a moment of just I felt wrong in terms of fasting. It just wasn't hitting. And so I ate and moved forward. And what was so curious is I woke up the next day with a new PR in my body weight. I dropped more and I'm down 30 pounds or close to it. I'm 28 off, or I'm 28 pounds. But the point is, I listened to my body and I knew internally that there was something wrong in terms of the fasting timing this week, this day, whether it was stress, my sleep, the events of the weekend, whatever. And I tempoed what I was doing. You should be doing that. Maybe you don't fast on Monday. Maybe you have to fast on Wednesday. Maybe you don't fast this week. Maybe you only do a 24-hour fast and next week you're back on your 36. Listen to your body. It knows what it wants. The big thing is to just start to push it towards the window and then let what feels natural take hold. We are giving you the tools in this, how to break your fast, what the timing window should look like, the knowledge behind it. She's made some recommendations on great books. But realistically, you're the CEO of your own body. You know what's right and wrong. You just have to have the courage to kind of jump off the diving board and just try. And I guarantee you, and Vasi is just such an inspiration and a great energy about it, myself included. I love it. You're not going to regret making these choices. So I hope it works for you. Vasi, I have to wind down, but I can't thank you enough for coming on. This has been absolutely fantastic. I've had a lot of fun.
Me too. Can I just say one more thing?
Go, do it.
Respond to what you're saying.
Do it.
I love that you brought that up. It's always okay to break a fast, and you should if it doesn't feel right. Something that really helped me to get into fasting is having a strong relaxation practice. So I do guided meditation, visualization, breath work, walks in nature, anything that helps you to reduce stress, I feel like is really important because fasting will increase your cortisol. It's like exercise. It's a hormetic stressor. So it increases cortisol. You don't want to do it if you're in a really high stress time of your life, tons of projects at work, if you're not sleeping well, it's not the best time to stretch fasting. When you will get used to it, it'll start to feel better, and you can do it even when you're more stressed, but you're not going to want to stretch yourself with fasting when you're in a stressful period. So having a strong, maybe it's prayer, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's visualization or walking in nature or breath work, whatever, or exercises that can help to balance the cortisol, to decrease cortisol. But make sure that you're doing that. And I really incorporate that in all my fasting challenges. I incorporate practices that help to decrease cortisol and help us to relax and manage stress.
Absolutely. Brilliant. The concept of in a stressful state, where sometimes we aren't realizing all the pressures that are put on us. And stress is stress, whether it's eating stress, workout stress, life stress, kid stress, family stress. Dieting, fasting is a stressor. Now, on the other hand, you can appropriately learn to manage that stress. And once your body starts to realize that it's a happy space, so to speak, that it's a good thing, you will get less of a stress response from not eating. Right in the beginning, you will be challenged, and that's okay. But over time, you will learn to grow. That's a really great point. I couldn't agree more. You should be a coach. Vasi, tell us where to find you, social media handles, website, your coaching, the school. Tell us everything.
Thrive Community on school. It's school.com/food-addict-no more 3753. I think just look up Thrive Community on school.
And I'm also going to add it in the link in this.
Great.
So,
okay. Perfect.
There we go. Okay, Thrive on School. What about social medias or website?
I'm on Facebook, Vasi Smith, and I don't have a website. I just have my school community.
Great. Well, listen, Vasi, I can't thank you enough. This has been absolutely fantastic, and honestly, I can't wait to have you on again. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, thank you so much, Josh. This is so much fun delving into fasting with you. I appreciate this conversation.
Me too. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye.